Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Chaz Kayato, and the topic of today's discussion is going to be keeping momentum in your dissertation. So, as you're watching this, if you haven't seen any of my other videos, I'm in the middle of the dissertation process. So I haven't finished. Around the timing of this, around the filming of this video, I am in the first half of the dissertation, meaning I have not begun the research yet, but I'm preparing for that research process. In addition to the dissertation classes, I have taken doctoral level courses, but I have actually at this point already finished all of those doctoral level courses aside from the dissertation. So the experience that I have, which is not going to be the same at every single university, I recognize that, but at American College of Education, which is an online university where I attend, this is kind of my experience in terms of writing the dissertation. So keeping momentum. Well, what do I mean by that? Well, what you'll find is when you are taking these courses, there is a lot of hurry up and wait, meaning there's going to be sections of the paper that you're writing, or there's going to be certain things that you need to be given approval on before you move to the next section. And while you can move to the next section prior to that approval, I'm going to talk about the caveat there. So going back to what I was saying before, so if you were taking other courses, obviously you can fill your time with those other courses that you're taking while you're doing the dissertation, and it actually kind of works out pretty well because, like I said, especially in the early parts of some of the dissertation writing, you might have a week or two where all you're waiting is for a checklist or an alignment table to be approved by your tutor or your dissertation chair. And so that is kind of perfect for you to just work on those other classes and maybe even get ahead in those other classes. So that way, as soon as you get approval, you are ready to move on to that next section. So I think that kind of helps with the momentum where you're kind of seesawing back and forth, where focus on dissertation, then when you're waiting, focus on the non-dissertation courses. And to be fair, you can really do this with anything, right? If you are a teacher, you can fill up the time when you're not working on your dissertation with academic things, and then when your next section comes up that you're able to work on, you can work on that and go back and forth. But really the idea behind this video is talking about how to keep the momentum within the dissertation. So we've talked about taking the courses, but what if you're in my situation where you're done with all your other courses? So what can I do when I'm at one of those moments where I am kind of up against a wall, I'm waiting for approval? Well, you can work ahead with the caveat that you might have to revise or you might have to throw away anything that you've worked on before you get approval. And so it's really important to understand that because I've seen this just talking to people within my cohort and reading things that other people in further along cohorts have said. It's really important to understand that approval is what really allows you to work and build off of what you have already. Without approval, if you work ahead, you may be told, actually you need to change this. And that may be something that you've used as a foundational part of moving forward. And so maybe you wrote an entire chapter, but what you're finding out is at the very beginning, something in your alignment table was wrong, or maybe not wrong, but you're being told to change it. And now you've done all this work based on something that's really important at the very beginning. And so you could feel like you just did a ton of work for nothing. So how can we avoid this? Well, we can avoid it in one way if you're the type of person that does not get flustered with that. and you're looking at this whole dissertation as an iterative process, and yes, you may have wrote 10, 15, 20 pages. Maybe you don't see it as a complete loss if you have to go back and make some changes. But if you are the type of person that will get disheartened by that, you probably don't want to move too far ahead. So what can we do? Well, there are other things that you can do. So just researching in general won't take anything away from really any of your future modules. So if you are researching your topic, just continue to do that. Continue to read articles that you think are going to be pertinent to your dissertation. You can start organizing the next section. So one thing that I'll do before I write anything is I'll actually go through a document and I'll put all of the headings that I need for that section. And this is something that just helps me mentally when I'm trying to figure out, okay, what needs to go here and then what needs to go somewhere later. Well, if I have all of the headings already sorted out, that really helps me recognize, like, okay, I probably don't need to add this in this section. I can add that in a later section. And so that groundwork, you can do that really at any time. So that's one thing I would recommend doing, is going in and doing the skeleton, doing the bones of future assignments, and then just leaving everything open to be added to later. Another thing that you can do, like I said, is just the research itself. Go in, use Google Scholar, use the library that your university gives you access to, and just research. Because at the end of the day, if you have to change parts of your paper, the research doesn't change, right? So the research is still something that you can utilize. Now, granted, I do understand that if you're researching case study and then you go back and you're no longer doing a case study, you're doing phenomenology, all of your research on case study may not carry over to what you're doing in phenomenology. But if you are focusing on the topic of your paper and not how you're going to conduct the paper, that may be something that helps you out. And I do recognize that even that might change a little bit. I had someone that had asked me this question a few months back. They wanted to do the ACE program, and they really wanted to start before they even got to the dissertation process in terms of researching. You can, but once again, the caveat is that you may get to the concept paper and you may not be approved for that topic. So, it's very important that you use some caution when it comes to preparing ahead. Another thing that you can do is just go ahead and look at those future chapters, look at those future modules, and know what's expected of you. So that way, when you get there, you're good to go, right? So that doesn't necessarily affect any of the writing or even the research that you may be doing. It's just understanding, okay, these are the sections, these are what I need to write for this next module, or these are what I can expect out of the next chapter that I'm going to write. So those are things that you could do to fill in the time. So that way you don't always, you're not going weeks at a time where you feel like you've done nothing. You still have some momentum. And then when you get to that future section, that future module, you'll already be able to get the ball rolling. Okay, so just understand that if you have not started the dissertation process, at least at a school like ACE, you're going to have a lot of disruptions in terms of flow. It's going to be the type of thing where you're going to want to work ahead, but you can't, right? In terms of, we've talked about ways you can work ahead, but in terms of what the school sees, you can't work ahead. You're still waiting for approval. So consider some of those ways that you can get work done prior to it being required to turn in, but just make sure you're not going all in on something that may require major changes down the line. So these are some ways that I think that you can keep momentum, and hopefully it will help you so that way you can finish your dissertation in a timely manner. So thank you guys for watching the video. Have a great day.